Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today we will look again at Graphics Windows. In our last video on Graphics Windows, we had created an application which could be compiled either using the console compiler or the PowerBasic Windows compiler. If we run the application, we will see it launches 3 graphics windows, the first of which is a sample graphics progress bar. Once that completes, it will load a JPEG graphic up from the directory and deposit it in the first graphics window. It will put text on that window and text on a second graphics window. Before we make any changes to this code, I'm going to change the JPEG slightly to trim off the excess round the side of the image. If we double click on the map JPEG, and we're going to make a minor edit to this graphic, just to crop it slightly, like so, and we will then save that one. So that's what our graphic is going to look like now. So let's have a look at the code to see how we can make some more changes to our application. In the application as it stands, we're using 3 libraries. The standard Windows 32 API library, which comes with PowerBasic, and 2 additional libraries. The first is the Graphics Splash Progress library, which is used to display the progress bar in a graphics window. The next library is PB Load JPEG as bitmap. As graphics controls in graphics windows require bitmaps to load into them, this library allows you to take a JPEG file, convert it to a bitmap, and allow you to load that directly into your control or graphics window. What you will see in this part of the code is this is where we clear the graphics window, and we're setting the background to a light grey colour. We're then changing the graphics colour so that any text that appears on that background is black in text with a light grey background. This is the part we're going to change. So we'll comment out these 2 lines of code for the moment. What I'd like to do with the background is make it a gradient fill, so that it is a smooth gradient between 2 colours. So we're going to create a new function in our application to paint the background. And we'll call this function paintBackground, which will take a single parameter, which is the handle of the graphics window we wish to paint the background of. So this is the skeleton of our new function, paintBackground, taking its single parameter, which is the handle of the graphics window we wish to paint the background of. We've set up 4 local variables in here. The first is going to be an array of a user-defined type called try_vertex. The next is going to be another variable of a user-defined type for the gradient rectangle. The next variable is another handle for our device context. And the final variables are the width and the height of our window. So as the graphics window can vary, the first thing I want to do is to use a graphics attach command to make sure I'm pointing towards the correct window. So we will use the hwin variable, which has been passed in on the parameters list, to point it towards that window. Next, we want to determine the size of the window and populate the w1 and h1 variables, the width and height. We can use the graphics getSize command to obtain those values. Next, we want to obtain the device context of our current graphics window, and we will populate the HDC variable with that value. Next, we're going to populate the try_vertex array. We're putting 2 sets of information in here. First of all, the width and height in pixels of the window itself. Secondly, we're putting in the colour, the red, green or blue colour, for each of the sides of our gradient. So in here, we're making it 230 for red and 150 for red on the other side. Next, we're going to make a call to the Gradient Fill Windows API function. This will perform the gradient fill for us, filling the window with the colour of our choice. And finally, we're using the graphics redraw command to redraw the graphics window so the user can actually see what's on it. So let's try running the application now and seeing what we get. And there you will see the background of the sample graphics window is now showing a gradient fill of red, going from a lighter red on the left-hand side to a darker red on the right-hand side. We can amend the colour of this gradient fill quite easily by amending the values in the paint background function. If we put some values in for the green element of our colour and run the application again now, we will get quite a different colour. However, as you will see, the text that is being printed on this graphics window is overwriting the background fill. As the background fill colour is a gradient, we can't set the background colour of our text command. But can we make it transparent so that the background colour will show through? Let's have a look at the code again. If we go back to where the text is actually written. Here we have the text being written to the graphics window. So we'll want to put a graphics colour command in to override the standard colours. Before we'd used the graphics colour with its two parameters, the black for the foreground and the light grey for the background. If we remove the light grey and we put in -2, this will set the background to be transparent and allow the background colour of our gradient fill to show through. So if we try running that code now, we will see that the text is now successfully displayed and the background colour is showing through. So having populated our graphics window, can we copy data from it and onto the second graphics window? Let's go back to the code. So after the JPEG is rendered to the first graphics window, we want to copy a section of this first graphics window to the second graphics window. So the first thing we need to do is to use a graphics attach command to reference the second graphics window. This instructs PowerBasic that the graphics window we're going to write to is the second one. Now we can use the graphic copy command, referencing the first window and the area of that window we want to copy and where on the second window we're going to copy to. So the graphics copy command will take a number of parameters, the first of which is where we're actually copying from. And since we're copying from a graphics window, the next parameter needs to be 0. Next are the coordinates of the top left and the bottom right hand corners of the area we wish to copy. Note these are not widths and heights, but the actual pixel coordinates. To finish the command, we need to tell it where we're copying to on the second graphics window. In this case, we're moving to 100 by 100 pixels, and we're using the mix copy source. And after using the graphics copy command, we will use graphics redraw to instruct PowerBasic to redraw the graphics window and make it visible to the user. If we try running the application now, we will get our progress bar. Once it completes, the JPEG will be displayed on the first graphics window, and a section of that graphics window has now been copied to the second graphics window. So you can quite easily copy from one window to another with one command. So can we copy something from the first graphics window to somewhere else on the first graphics window? We can take exactly the same approach as we did a moment ago. First of all, we use the graphics attach command to instruct PowerBasic that what we're going to be writing to is the first graphics window. And we can use the graphics copy command to say that we are copying to the first graphics window. We are copying from this location to this location. This is defining the size of the rectangle we wish to copy, and this is saying where we're copying to. And we will use the graphics redraw command to instruct PowerBasic to display this to the user. So if we try running that now, we will get the progress bar as before. The JPEG will then be copied to the primary window, and we now have the secondary window populated as before, and we also have that image copied to a separate area of the first graphics window. So what we've achieved today is we've added a gradient fill to our primary graphics window. We've amended the text so that when the text is written to that graphics window, it allows the background screen to show through. In other words, we have written the text with a transparent background. We've also copied a section of the first graphics window to the second graphics window. And we've also copied a section of the first graphics window to a separate location on that first graphics window. We can probably do more to the paint background function to make it more generic so that you can specify the colours in the parameters list. However, we'll leave that for a later video. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.